looking back at the world from another level, you know what I mean? Multiple gunshots, lit a block, the fun stops. Niggas was calling cops, people shot, nobody stopped. I wonder when the world stopped. Cameron last night, 2 kids shot, while the whole block staring. I will never understand this society. But they try to murder me, then they lie to me. Product of a John Breed, all my homies try.
I apologize, everybody. We seem to be experiencing somewhat technical difficulties. The on-air button does not want to work today.
I think
One second. Let me see if I can deal with this. It's still going to be recorded. Oh, there we go. Good afternoon, urban intellectuals and those out there in listening land, both online as well as individuals who've called into the show. This is yours truly, Jalal Tariq, with the latest edition of Real Talk with Jalal Tariq. Real talk for real people with real problems. I apologize for the earlier technical difficulties. For some reason, it just did not want to go on air, so the intro got lost in the sauce. But as usual, I'll open our show with a request that those out there who want to watch the Urban Intellectuals brand grow and to watch our group try or assist our group in what we are trying to do to uplift and to forward the conditions of us as a whole, I urge you to go to urbanintellectuals.com/members, where for the low price of $24 a year, you can become a card-carrying member of Urban Intellectuals. Or if you just want to donate to the cause, if you feel strongly that what we are doing is a positive thing, you can go to urbanintellectuals.com/donate, and you can donate to your heart's content. Now, we have a little bit different format today for Free for All Fridays. For the first time in the history of the Real Talk show, I have no other males on the show but myself.
Yeah.
Today, I am joined by 2 lovely ladies, 2 frequent contributors to Urban Intellectuals discussions groups and all kinds of, they all over Facebook, just start trouble. But I want to thank Leah S.D. for joining us today, as well as Gabrielle Herrard, 2 sisters who I rotate with on a regular basis on the site. Say hello to the people, ladies.
How you doing? Hello.
Okay. Now, this is how we got to do this, since we know that you guys are new. And regardless, I don't know if it's just a male thing, but you both sound alike to me. You know, maybe it's my fault. I don't know. But the first subject, that since it's Free for All Friday, we don't really have a topic and or a structure that we're trying to do or anything like that. So what we're going to do is just basically we're going to throw it out there, see what develops or whatever. Now, Gabrielle, I don't know if you know, because I haven't seen you in the actual group or on the comments list, but Leah, we've all been having quite a spirited discussion on the latest big thing to hit the web, which is this catcalling video where the, I don't know, semi-mixed white woman / Hispanic, maybe a sister with, you know, some white in her. I don't know what she is, but anyway.
Racially ambiguous.
Yeah, she's Pat. You know, so she walks around New York supposedly for 10 hours or what have you, and she basically documented, you know, 100+ issues of what she called harassment. You know, guys whistling at her, guys saying, how you doing, guys winking at her. You know, one guy stalked her for 5 minutes or what have you. And, you know, taking them at their word, I guess that the actual purpose of the actual video was to start this discussion about what women have to go through in this patriarchal and paternalistic society that we live in. Not just this society, but this world, because that ain't nothing. Because there's a whole lot of perspectives that we could have took on this video, you know, even to the point of speaking for some, not for me, speaking for some, that ain't nothing. If she was in India, she could have got raped.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
She could have got raped and killed in other parts of the world just for what she had on. Some people in some parts of this world, you can't walk around with a head-to-toe burqa on, where the only thing people see is your eyelashes and not get raped and killed. That's just the way this world is. So, not to say that, what she went through was somehow not really important in the overall scheme of things, because, I try and be as balanced as I possibly can. But from a female point of view, ladies, is this a big deal or is it not a big deal? I'm going to go to you first, Leah, because we've been talking about it, and just in case, Gabrielle, just in case you haven't had time to read it or develop a thought process on it.
Oh, trust me, I have. Okay, go ahead, though.
Well, thank you. I think, and I've said it in this thread multiple times, I hate that damn video. I hate that this, like you said, ambiguous-looking woman created something that could have really started a discussion on something that's real. And there's so many flaws in the way that she did it that people are talking more about the flaws than the issue. So that in itself, that aside, I will, answering your question, is it a big deal? I will say yes. And the answer from each woman will differ based on her experiences. So, I shared a story in the thread that happened to me in Atlantic City, and I literally almost got into a fist fight with this guy. I was standing there in shock. Like, I can't believe you just approached me this way. Of course, those are the extremes. Of course, most guys don't run up on you. Of course, most don't touch you. Most don't, say rude things. So that's another reason that I hate the video, is because I really wish she'd have focused on the extreme things, because then people would be talking about that, not about a brother saying hello, not about somebody saying, oh, you look pretty today. That's not the topic, and that's not what came out of a lot of the discussions. And by the way, I think I've been discussing this in about 4 or 5 different rooms, and the general consensus seems to be, the same thing I'm saying. It's not a big deal with hello, not a big deal with, how you doing. Not even a big deal if, hey, can I call you sometime? Can I get your number? And she says, no, that's all right. I have a boyfriend, or I'm not interested, whatever. And that guy walked away. Not a big deal. It is those cases, though, that we know of where it goes too far. And interestingly enough, in the other groups that I've been talking about it, when people hear of those extreme cases, it's not simply, oh, that's messed up, I can't believe that dude did that. It's, well, what were you wearing? What did you say to him? What did you do? Yeah. And I'm like, I just said I was standing there talking to my girlfriends, and the dude walked up and started acting, crazy, but you're asking me what I did. So the general idea is, the extreme is what I would rather focus on, because those are what will change a mentality. Those are what will shape how people view it. Things got off topic in this string, as we see. And then when she edited the video out, I was like, oh, chick, you are really destroying what really could have been good. But that's a whole nother story. So the short answer to your question, sorry, I'm rambling. Yeah, it is a big deal. It's not the norm. It's not, every single day somebody touches you or grabs you, anything like that. But it is. And the biggest piece would be if people's mentality changed to, if she doesn't respond, I'll leave her alone. If I'm talking to a little boy and I see him do that to a girl or a teenager, I see him do that, I'm going to tell him it's not cool, and then we go from there.
Okay. And, to interject a thought, I think one of the issues that has been going back not only in our group but in other groups that I've seen as well is, how can you term it? I guess the best phrase would be victim blaming. Like you said, the conversation automatically turns into, well, what was you wearing? Well, what did you expect? You had on some tight jeans, And I understand that is the wrong way to approach that particular issue or that particular conversation. But being the devil's advocate that I always am, when people make, claims like that, of any sort, really and truly, not just like that, but of any sort, I always try and say, okay, well, here's the converse. Can you look at it like this, and what would be your response to somebody who says this? Mm-hmm. Is there, and I'm going to direct this one to you, Gabrielle.
Okay.
Is there ever a situation where, not necessarily with the intention on something like that happening, is there ever a situation where a female might put herself in a position and it's just really just a bad idea? Not necessarily her fault per se, but okay, that might not have been a good idea. That's not a good look for you to walk around in a bikini and expect people not to say something to you. You know.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, yeah, there are some incidents where that happens, but I don't want the focus to be on that, obviously, right, because it's such a blurred, the lines of that is so clearly blurred, and it's so easily left up to interpretation and how other people, kind of perceive what a woman is trying to put out there or what her intentions are, based on what they think is provocative clothing or her attitude or whatever the case is. So it's just a really blurred line, and that's the thing that I can 100% agree with Leah on. It's not the saying hi. It's not the you look nice today. It's not, obviously, come on now. We're all human. We all want attention, positive attention in some regard. But the issue comes up where it becomes this thing: if I don't respond to you, or if I don't give you my number, or if I don't smile back, or if I'm just having a bad day and I kind of just want to be to myself, then all of a sudden you got to call me out my name. I'm all types of bitches. I'm all types of whatever.
Whoa.
Me personally, I've had glass bottles thrown at me when I refused to give my number to somebody. So that's the issue. And, Leah had obviously a similar issue where it really turned into a huge deal. But to get back to your question, yeah, there are some times where women may attract that type of attention, maybe out of ignorance, maybe because a lot of times somebody has not shown her how to present herself in certain situations. And it's unfortunate that you have to think about that, because you'd like to think that you can leave the house and kind of just do you and not have to worry about being harassed, but that's not realistic. So you do have to think about how you come out. You do have to think about your clothing, unfortunately, and you do have to think about where your surroundings are, the social situations, and even the people you interact with, because sometimes the circle that you run in can be an issue as well. So those are all factors you have to consider. But that's the thing that I kind of want to get across, because it's kind of like being black in a way. White people don't have to think about, okay, if I have a hoodie on, is somebody going to look at me like I'm getting ready to rob a store or hold up a liquor store or something like that. So it's kind of the same way for women. Men don't have to think about, okay, if my skirt is 2 inches above my knee, am I going to be harassed, or is some man going to start chasing after me, or, am I going to get shot at the club like that woman did a couple of weeks ago? So that's just the thing we want people to understand, particularly men. It's not that we don't want to talk to you, not that we have a problem with somebody saying, hi, how are you? It's not that we have a problem with any of that, but we just want there to be an understanding. Yes, this does happen. Yes, there is harassment. Yes, it escalates. And yes, even times if I'm not speaking to somebody who seems to be polite and they're saying hi, it's not because I have a problem saying hi, but I've had situations where I would say hi, and all of a sudden that person saw that as a green light to, just kind of get turned up and just really be in my face. Are you going to give my number then? And this and that and the other. So unfortunately, it's almost like you don't know how to respond. So that's just the thing we want people to understand. It's like you don't have to think about that, but we do.
Okay. And that is an excellent point. And I think that's the point that the Genuine Dime was trying to make in the room. Even though it seemed like we don't agree, a lot of times it seems like we don't agree, but we actually do agree on 93% of the things that we discuss. It's that 7% that she's wrong on. But anyway, in any event, I agree. Like you said, if sometimes if you're in a situation where you're having a bad day or something's on your mind and you're really not feeling conversation, if somebody says something to you, and like you said, that gives them that green light, now all of a sudden you got this leech on your neck that you can't get rid of, because that's the way society has went. But, okay, let me ask you this, and I'll go back to you with this one, Leah. How much do you think that today's society, because paternalistic And patriarchal societies have been around since man has been around. You know, the whole all the way back to hunters and gatherers. Y'all was the gatherers. Y'all tended the crops. We drug the wildebeest home. Y'all fixed it. You know, so that's been around forever. But how much do you think today's society contributes to this mentality that we have, especially among young men? I ain't going to say young black men. I'm going to say young white guys, too, because I just seen some young white guys out there foul like that, too. That just wasn't on the video, but we're not going to talk about that. But how much do you think today's society actually contributes to that mentality?
Oh, I think it's huge. I think that any of those sayings, you know, boys will be boys, and well, you must have wanted it, or any of those things that float out there, no matter where it is, whether it's in TV, whether it's in music, whether it's in even what your family teaches you, what your parents say. You know, we joke around when you see a little boy and he's handsome. Somebody will say, "Ooh, he's gonna be a heartthrob. Y'all better watch out for him. He's gonna be a player." But then for little girls, it's, "Oh no, you better act right and sit over there in the corner, cross your legs, fold your arms." You know, we send those kind of messages all the time. So it's usually not intentional, and I think that's why when this topic first came up, I was surprised at the reactions, but I wasn't really taken aback that far, because I'm like, Leah, it's ingrained in a lot of what people think. You know, a lot of people, as y'all said before, if you're wearing a certain thing, like, well, what did you expect if somebody tried to touch you when you were wearing that? And it's really across the board in a lot of things that we see. So I don't know if anybody watched the Daily Show clip that I posted, but it's funny because the girl who's on that show is hilarious. But I thought it was a better representation because she pulls in women of all races and ages, and she pulls in clips of men saying things and women saying things. So that really showed how ingrained that kind of thinking is in society in general. It wasn't just a black-white thing. It wasn't just a cat-calling thing. Just the idea that women, you are, you know, if we do this to you, you should be okay. What's the big deal?
Right.
And okay, let me ask a different question, because there's a lot of women out there, you know, on Facebook, on Twitter, you know, conversations I've had out in the streets with women or what have you, that seem to think that this video will lead to some type of bigger movement or bigger discussion about, you know, gender equality and gender rights and, you know, gender boundaries, you know, conversation in America. Let me ask you this. And I'm going to go to you this time, Gabrielle.
Okay.
If you had a magic wand and you could wave that magic wand and you could make all of the last 250,000 years of male dominance go away.
Don't give me that wand.
What would you like to see? Okay, let me put it like this. What would you like to see that video accomplish? Even though we're going to say that it was horribly done and it might not have been a good idea, what would you like to see done?
Well, first of all, you know, I kind of agree, obviously, as far as how productive or effective that video was. I think we can all agree that it was, I mean, to me, I kind of took it with a grain of salt. Like you said, there were not many extreme cases of harassment in there. I mean, the one that sticks out, of course, is the guy who followed her around for like 5 or 6 minutes and, you know, just kind of wouldn't go away. So I think most of us can agree that video was a very poor example. But you can't say it failed completely because we're talking about it right now. So it didn't fail completely. It did kind of bring up the dialogue, and it did kind of cause people to have a discussion. And hopefully we can kind of channel that discussion to really talk about the issues that we really need to be addressing here. Like if we're going back to like what I would do since the beginning of time to kind of change how the male-dominated society has affected women, well, first of all, I would like to have seen just our contributions being more recognized, because I think that we've kind of done more than history has allowed us to be credited for since the beginning of time. I mean, obviously you had women in power since, you know, ancient Egypt and, you know, other ancient civilizations. So I don't think that that's anything new. I think that a lot of times we haven't gotten credit for it. But I think that, if anything, there just needs to be a greater acknowledgement of the fact that we've contributed to a lot of things that obviously in terms of mental capability, in terms of intellect, in terms of a lot of areas that we're just as capable as men are. And I think that obviously that's something that society is starting to accept, but not to a total extent, because there's still the need to over-sexualize us or marginalize us in some kind of way. It's like, okay, you can be so smart but not that smart, because then I have to pay you equally, I have to give you equal benefits, I have to do this and that and the other. And it's really just a changing of attitude, and that's not going to happen overnight. Like Leah said, it goes back to how you were raised, the gender roles that you were taught to play as a kid. You know, if you had a son and you're like, oh, he's going to be a player, and then you told the daughter, oh, you better keep your legs closed, you better not be fast. You know, you're sending different signals as to what that person's sexuality is, or what it means to be a male or female, and what's valuable and what's not. So I would just go back and change the attitudes, change the idea that women can't contribute as much as men can. And I think that would kind of go a long way in us not constantly being just seen as objects, or not being seen as second-class citizens, or not as important. I mean, and that's, if I could be more eloquent about it, I would be. But I just think that it starts with how you raise your kids. It starts with what you teach your daughters about yourself. And I'm going to go here too. I think it also starts men, and I'm not just putting it on the men, but how you treat the women in your life. That example is going to go a long way in how your daughter thinks she should be treated by other boys. So I think that you need to just be mindful of all those things, how you treat your daughters, how you treat your sisters, how you treat your wife, your girlfriend, just women in general, because if you have young girls watching you, and as women, you also have to be mindful of how you allow yourself to be treated. It's just going to teach better attitudes about men and women and how we should interact with each other and respect each other. So that was my long, over-rambling response.
You know it was a yes or no question, right? No,
whatever.
And it's funny, too, because you bring up an interesting point. And I often use this analogy when I talk about the differences between how we raise our girls and how we raise our boys. Like, I got an 8-year-old son, and I got pair of 2-year-old twin daughters, right? Entirely different ways that I'm going to raise them. And the average guy, and a lot of people they're going to stand up for righteousness, and, online or in person, they're going to say all the things that's, supposed to be said. But if my 16-year-old daughter ended up in a relationship with a grown-ass science teacher, I'm ready to go up and blow up the school. It's bloodshed in the hallway, right?
Blow it up, right? Mm-hmm.
But if my 16-year-old son is nailing his science teacher, we're going to say all the right things. Oh, my God, my son, you took away his innocence or whatever. But, behind the scenes, we're going to be looking at him like, damn, man, I wish I could have done that at 16. You know what I mean? Because that's the way our society has been acculturated, let's put it like that. Leah, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say, or would you think that it would be fair to say that some of what we see in society as far as how men view women comes from the fact that there are no fathers in the home, in some cases, in many cases, let's put it like that? If a guy is raised in a household without a responsible father, because some of these dudes is better off that y'all be out the household, bullshit and nut. You see what I'm saying? Can you say that contributes to a lot of these attitudes?
That's a good question. I think so. Not definitively, and not the only reason, but yes, it contributes. And it's interesting. I was talking with a friend about a different type of topic the other day, but we were talking about fathers in the home. And I'll never forget, I had an ex say to me, and we were talking about something that I asked him to do, and he didn't want to do it. And he said, well, I was raised by women. I know how to treat women. And I said, no, that means you know how to act like a woman. And I wasn't trying to give him wasn't trying to give him a jab. I was being honest. It came out too blunt. I realize now I shouldn't have said it that way. But what I meant was he didn't watch a father doing things. He didn't watch how a male does things. So he only saw the back-end response. So to this example, if the boy has a father around and, they're walking down the street and they see an attractive young woman and the father says hello, and then let's say he turns to his son and says, she was pretty, right? Oh, yeah, she was pretty, Dad, and leaves it dead. Fine. But then if he sees him do something else, then that's when he learns. If the boy has no father around and he's only hanging out with his friends and they haven't been taught, they're acting reckless, they're, doing whatever, then that's what he's going to pick up too. So absolutely, that father as an example, the proof is in seeing it. Talking to kids is great, and that we have to follow it up with that. But people don't realize how much kids are watching their actions. So that's very important.
And I'll even add this. Growing up in a family with, my mother raising 8 of us, and damn near after we got above a certain age, damn near every boyfriend my mama ever had, we beat up. You know what I mean? Because all he had to do was just slap my mama or push my mama or, mush her in the face or something like that. And, it was the wrath was coming down, especially, like I said, when we got grown. You know, and I think that in some cases, the choices that some women make in who they decide to expose their children to has a lot to do with some of the things that we see today. Because if my mama, if she ended up with a guy that his original approach to her was a catcall, she's going to show that to that male child. And that male child is then going to turn around and do what he has seen, which is, don't get me wrong, not to say that it's the mother's fault per se. There are some situations and some things that happen in this life, and this is what I try and get other people to understand, that there is nobody's fault. It is what it is. That's it. That's all. You see what I'm saying? So that's how we end up a lot of times diverted on this needless argument between, you just blaming me because I got raped. No, I'm not blaming. I'm blaming the dude that get ready to get 30 years in the penitentiary. What I'm saying is that this society has, it's built itself on male dominance over the female persona. That's not necessarily anybody. If it's anybody's fault, go back to the Romans. You know what I mean? Go back to the Greeks. Because if you look at the basic underpinnings of Western society, you can even say Eastern society to a certain extent, but the basic underpinnings of Western society is the Greeks. And the Greeks would rather have a boy than have a woman. They felt like a boy didn't become a man until he was basically molested by an older man. And that's throughout our society. A woman was just seen to, you raise the kids, you cook the food, you clean up the house, and you be there in case I do want to actually have sex with a woman. If I do want to procreate the species and have another son, that's what you are for. And we've seen it develop throughout society into what we see today. And it's nobody's fault. It's not the 5-hour energy stalker guy. It's not his fault that he was the way he is, and it's not the fault of that woman who just basically was walking down the street minding her own business. It's nobody's fault. It's just the way it is. And now the conversation should be, okay, used to be a time women weren't allowed to vote, women weren't allowed to go to school, but those times has changed. Y'all have just as much education or more so than we do as a group of men. What's your solution to the problem? I think I asked you first, Gabby, but why did I just call you Gabby? That's like a white girl nickname for Gabby.
I mean, that's what everyone calls me. I've been Gabby.
Okay, Gabby,
so
it is.
I'll be a white girl then. But it's funny you should bring that up because I, over the last several or however long I've been with the group, I have posted a number of different articles, or not articles, but just posts about kind of this, demonizing of women, particularly black women, for demonstrating our independence. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how many times I've heard posts of, you all are too independent, you brag too much on your accomplishments, you try to dominate relationships and emasculate the male. And I'm not going to deny the fact that there are women out there that are like that. I'm not going to deny that. But it's just we get put into this box and pigeonholed where that's not necessarily what we're trying to do. I mean, ask the average woman, I think. I don't care how educated she is. I don't care if she's the CEO of her own corporation. When she goes home, she wants that partner who's equal to her just as much as anyone else. She wants somebody who's going to take out the trash while she cooks. And she will probably cook, clean, and serve and take care of her man just like the woman who's staying at home every day. So it's just this idea, this stigma that, we try to be overly domineering, or that we're trying to run the show, or that we necessarily want to come out of somewhat of the traditional, quote-unquote, roles of being a woman. And that's not always entirely the case. Now, it's going to be different for every woman, but I personally remember a post not too long ago, I think it was Candy Burris from Real Housewives or whoever, and she said sometimes a woman is king. And I was like, no, I disagree with that, because I don't need to be called a king. That's not what I am. I don't need to take on the masculine form of that word. I'll be a queen. I'll be happy to be a queen, because I do notice that there tends to be some, like, masculinization of women in a sense when you're put in a position of power, or you're put in a position of, just kind of being assertive and independent. I think that doesn't happen all the time, but I think there a lot of times you're put in that position where you're just expected to be that way, and that's not always what you want. That's not always what you asked for. So, again, I'm going all the way around to say one thing, but I think it just comes down to understanding. I think it just comes down to us not making assumptions about where a person is coming from, not making assumptions about what they're trying to get across or what they're trying to, persuade you of, and just let a person be who they are and express themselves before you make an assumption about where they're coming from. So if we could just create a greater understanding amongst ourselves and not adopt, centuries of patriarchal attitudes or ideas, and just kind of define for ourselves what our own roles are, we wouldn't have half the problems that we have. And that would tie into the problems we're having with the way our kids are coming up, the male-female interaction in our relationships and how dysfunctional they've become. I think all those things could be resolved if there was just a time for people to stop counting up all the grievances that, they feel somebody has lodged against them, and just stop and listen and just kind of start from square one and respect that person that's in front of you.
Cool. Leah, let me ask you this. I'm going to play devil's advocate again, and you get to be, I guess the Lord. There's a thought process out there. There's a mentality out there that says that as a man, when I view you as a woman and I approach you and I ask you a question, or I might make contact with you and you look at me and you give me the stank eye, whatever the case may be, and I say something crazy to you, whatever. If you are the type of woman that says that, okay, well, just because I have on nice clothes, or just because I'm dressed, quote unquote, sexily or whatever, I do this for me and not for the attention of men. There are those that say, well, that's why you single, because everything is about you. What would you say to that person who had that type of mentality?
The person who has the type of mentality that the woman saying, just because I have this on,
Either
leave me alone, or okay. So to the woman who said, sorry, go.
Both.
All right. To the woman who says, well, just because I have this on, I do this for me. I can understand that to a point. I can understand wanting to be sexy. I do think that all things considered, we do have to be careful in this world. You know, someone on the thread asked, well, if they said, well, what are the reasons for this or that? And I said, well, I know. Why has it become important now? And I said, because things have gotten crazy now.
Girlfriend already got off for work.
And that's purely, let's say back in the day, we never saw it. People didn't post videos of it. We didn't hear about somebody across the country who had somebody, attack them, whatever. Well, then it might not be extreme, and the hellos are fine. So to her, though, to that woman who says, well, I should be able to dress how I want to dress, she does have to realize there are crazy people out there. So, sexy or not, there does have to be some. We already said we're not blaming the victim, but we do have to be smart. And as a woman, I don't have a daughter, but if I did, I'd say, listen, baby, I get it. You want to wear this or that. The dress is cute, but do be careful, because not everyone is working with a full deck. Not everybody is sane. So, to the person who says, well, that's why you're single, you don't want to talk to people, I want to make sure I'm clear on your example. The person responding to her would be saying that's why you're single, because you got your nose up in the air, that I'm doing this for me?
And not so much that individual who might have received that response, but there's a large group of people out there, a large group of men out there with the mentality, and they push this mentality, because I'm trying to think of some examples of some of the people who've written on this, in that that says that because women have become so insular and they've become so concerned about themselves and not the whole, I don't need a man, or Jesus is my man, or whatever that mentality might be, that is actually like a bulletproof vest, and that drives individuals away that might approach it. That's who I was talking about.
Okay, got it. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, that it exists. We all put up walls for different reasons, whether it be experience, whether it be something someone tells us and feeds us so long that we believe it's true, whether it be purely to protect our hearts. We'll say different things and do different things to kind of keep people at bay. It's not good. It's not going to get you far. And it's interesting because sometimes you'll think, oh, yeah, this is keeping me safe. Me saying, I don't need a man for this. After a while, and maybe everyone hasn't had that experience yet, but after a while, you probably realize that that's not working out very well. Or how when people say, oh, you're keeping up doing that, you're keeping up acting like a whatever and telling people it's okay, how's that working for you? After a while, you do have to get to a point where you ask yourself, how's that working for you? And some people kind of go through life perfectly okay, being insolent, being, well, I'm going to do me, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and maybe they're all right with that. But personally, there are different things throughout my life that I've had happen where I had to check myself and say, well, Leah, you think this is cute, you think doing this is okay, but really, where's that getting you? Nowhere. So you have to want to change for yourself, and you have to realize that everyone isn't that way. So, even to the catcalling video, interestingly enough, I was talking with people from all over the other day. I'm from New Jersey. That video is very real to me. Guys have even more of an attitude of, well, look, whatever. And, I've been called out my name a couple times. Even if I say hi back, if I don't, respond and give them my number, then it's a problem. Now, I moved to D.C., though, and I'll never forget, when I first moved down towards the South, I lived in Baltimore. I'll never forget being on campus and people saying hi, and my girlfriend and I, who were both from Jersey, were looking like, you know them? Why are they speaking to us? And we had to adjust and realize, all right, Leah, everybody's not out to do whatever, and everybody's not going to catcall and be rude. Just say hi back. So now that I've lived in an environment for years where that's not always the case, I've adjusted my attitude a little bit. But to people who do live in it every day, they'll be on the defense. They'll be on guard. So I say all that to say your life experience will dictate and answer that question. Well, how long are you going to keep up with whatever behavior you're doing? If it's not working, you really have to look and adjust. Otherwise, you'll just be miserable.
Gabrielle, same question.
Sorry. Okay. Well, basically, I think it kind of piggybacks off what Leah said. I mean, your life experience is going to dictate how you respond to certain people or how you conduct yourself. I think a lot of times when a woman has an attitude of, I don't need a man, it's obviously because of past hurt, past disappointment, and also maybe buying into this idea that there aren't any good men out there. I know myself, I've been bamboozled by that idea. And you start feeling like, well, I better learn how to take care of myself because ain't nobody else going to take care of me. That's kind of how, and, that is prevalent a lot of times to me in black neighborhoods or black households. A lot of times women will teach their daughters to be strong and to be independent and to do everything for themselves and not necessarily not teach the young man that, but not the same way. And if he doesn't have that male figure who's teaching him how to take care of home or take care of business, then there is going to be a deficiency there. So that's a problem as well. I think a lot of times black women may not have been surrounded by the father, maybe even had the cousins or the brothers or the guy friends that she could rely on to look after her. So she felt like I have to do everything by myself. So that she kind of comes into this, romantic situations with that chip on her shoulder, like I got to see what this dude's trying to get away with and what he's going to try to pull over on me. And it becomes a baggage. It becomes something that hinders you. And every woman has to go through the point where she realizes that, like Leah said, how's that working for you? It's not working because you eventually put up a wall where you won't let anybody in. And I've had to do that myself. I've had to work on myself to not allow myself to just look at all men like, y'all ain't shit, or, whatever. I mean, obviously, just looking at urban intellectuals, I can see that that's not true. So I think every person is going to have their own response to that based on what they've been through. And as for the person who says, well, that's why you're single, well, you're just looking at one aspect of who I am. You don't know the whole picture. So you can look at my attitude or what you perceive as my attitude or the outfit that I have on, and you can pinpoint whatever idea you think is the factor in keeping me single. But to me, that's just an excuse to try and point the finger of blame and to turn it into some type of gender male versus female type of situation where you're using one person as a representation for all and to kind of point the finger of blame and say, this is why you all are like this. And every single person in that group has a different story and a different reason as to why they're in the current situation that they're in. So it's all about personal responsibility. And every person has a journey that they have to go through where you're going to, either open yourself up or respond to a certain situation based on what you've, experienced in the past. We're all creatures of our past. So even for the woman who's walking down the street and a gentleman says, hi, how are you? You look nice today. If she doesn't answer, it's not because she has a stank attitude. Maybe the last guy who said that started off nice and turned into a complete psycho, or maybe she has not healed from her past situation. So I think the only thing that I would like the men who are hearing this to get away from it is just don't make it a representation of all women. It's not every person that you're dealing with who's going to respond to that, and don't read into it why that's happening. So that would be the only thing that I would want people to take away from that.
Cool. If were you going to say something, Leah?
No, that's a good point. It's both ways. For women, calm down, everybody's not out to get you. And for men, calm down, every woman doesn't have an attitude. Yeah. I like how you wrapped that up, Gabrielle. That's good.
Thank you.
Or calm down, every woman don't want you.
Yeah, yeah. Man might be saying hi. Just say hi.
And it's funny, too, because in my estimation, I've always felt like one of the reasons why there's so much discord between black men and black women, really women and men in general, but especially about us, because I can give a damn about them, is that men have lost the art of romancing a woman.
Teach.
And conversely, women are so defensive in some cases, in many cases, in a lot of cases. They're so defensive that they don't even recognize romance when they see it.
That's true, too.
I think, like we were having a discussion the other day about hip-hop music. On this show, matter of fact, go back go back in the archives, look at the hip hop show. Where we was talking about the difference between today's slow music and slow music of when I was coming up as a youngster. Right, and times change. You can't compare this, that, this, and the other. My music ain't my mama's music. My mama's music ain't my grandmama's music. They was in the big bands and Cab Calloway and stuff like that. All that's fine. But what you can't deny is today's culture is about sex.
All day long.
Our culture at that time was about relationships. You know what I mean? When I was coming up, if I liked a girl, me and that girl went together. We were girlfriend and boyfriend. Now, oh man, that's my insert vulgar phrase. Or that's my insult vulgar male phrase. You see what I'm saying? And now it seems in some cases that even pop culture, the music, the movies, the videos, the books, the magazine articles are all about hookups. You see what I'm saying? It's about hookups. Damn, she got, she's strapped. Man, I want to hit that. Whereas back in the day, she fine as all get out. Like we used to say, I think Terry said it on yesterday's show, man, she's a brick house. Yeah, that's how far back in past that we went. She's a brick house. You see what I'm saying? I want to get to know her. You see what I'm saying? Sex was something that was down the line. Yeah, if she let me hit it, that's cool. You know what I mean? But I know in order for me to hit it, I got to at least know her name. I got to get close enough to her to know where she lives. You see what I'm saying? But today's society, everything is pushed toward, we going to the club and turn up. If I meet a guy at the club and I like him, I might give him my number. If I give him my number, I might let him hit it the first day. I might let him hit it in a week. I remember it used to be a time that you couldn't hit sometime for a month or two. That you had to prove, you had to put in work if you wanted to hit it. Now, man, a guy will lose interest if you don't get it in a week.
Tell the truth.
And that's sad. That is really sad. That's one of the reasons why we don't have the relationships today that we had back in the past. That's one of the reasons why there is so much division between us as black men and black women. Because we don't even know how to talk to each other no more. Men, we the fumble mouth. We trying to be Chris Brown. The women remember the last 5 suckers that she been with. You know what I mean? She looking at you like, damn, that's the same thing he said to me, and the dude before him, and the dude before him, and the dude before him. Now I'm not gonna give you no play. I remember Cat Williams said in one of his stand-up routines, words to the effect that, women that say all men ain't shit should really ask themselves, no, what is it about you that keep attracting ain't shit niggas? And although he said it as a joke and everybody laughed, if you really, really think about it, if you 0 and 10 in the good men department, what does that say about you? I mean, come on now.
That's
10 guys in a row and ain't none of nothing?
Oh, yeah.
But that's just my thing. And, it was my intent on dealing with, a couple of more different situations on this particular show. But I done looked up, and now it is like 5 minutes to the end of this show. And, we still talking about black men and black women.
Okay.
We should have made this an episode of Bridging the Gap or something like that. But then again, I said in the room, Bridging the Gap, mini Bridging the Gap, coming up at 1 o'clock. So ladies, this is what I want. This is what I want from you. We'll start with you first, Leah. If you had to give a commentary, we're going to pretend that this is worldwide. You sitting on TV, I done stuck a microphone in your face, and everything that we have talked about as far as this video is concerned, I need you to distill it down to one last comment. What would you say?
One last comment about all of this. I would say that you don't mean in one sentence, do you?
No, you use as many sentences as you want.
I was going to say one sentence. That's hard. I'm a talker. Okay. I would say we need to get back to basics. We have gotten to a place where we're busy worrying about the wrong things.
That's true.
If our families are going to heal, if our children are going to heal, if we are going to heal day to day with all of these things we're talking about, catcalling and men ain't shit, and women ain't shit, and all of that, if we're going to solve all that, we have to get back to the basics. We have to realize that the world is what it is. People have messed up. Things have gotten a little off, but there is still love. There is still kindness. If you, like y'all said, if you encounter unkindness all the time, you have to look at what you're doing in a way. You have to change your environment. You have to change your reactions, all of that. You have to make sure that you're safeguarding yourself. And beyond that, if people do things to you or say things to you, you can't control them. You have to get the lesson and keep on moving. And you have to teach the lesson, because that's what we said earlier. A lot of people aren't talking to kids about these things. We're not conditioning them the same. We're not raising them the same. So girls and boys grow up with all these different things in their heads. We, as the older generation, and I'm not that old, but we as the older generation do have a responsibility to see that we can affect change in any little way. Talking to one person about one topic, if their mind is open a little bit, even if they don't understand or agree, if their mind is open a little bit, then I feel like that's an improvement.
Cool. I thank you for that. Gabrielle, you get the last word.
Okay. I would say that if I was to try and sum up what I got out of this video and what I got out of this whole discussion in general, is that we have to open up the doors of communication. I mean, you know, it's really easy to see something and have a knee-jerk response to it. It's really easy to take one element out of something that you're seeing and just respond to that one thing and miss the big picture. And it turns into a diversion where you're focusing on other side factors and other things, whereas you're not really looking at the main issue. The main issue is respect. That's the whole point. I think, you know, if this video was actually trying to accomplish what it purported to, be trying to accomplish, I think the point was respect each other, respect how you treat the opposite sex, and that goes for both men and women, and just don't be so quick to make an assumption. Don't be so quick to assume that you know where a person is coming from, and just don't be influenced also by social media, because social media will blow something out of proportion. Things can be edited, made to look a certain way to where it emphasizes something, and it just triggers, you know, just a controversial reaction that everyone's going to respond to, as opposed to really looking at the main issue that everyone should be focused on. So I think that it all boils down to understanding. I don't think it boils down to mutual respect. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to go back to those days where it was kind of like, you know, our parents or our grandparents. We live in a very high-tech, fast-paced world. Social media, cell phones, and all those things have made society a place of instant gratification. So we're not necessarily, I'm not saying it's a lost cause, but because dating and courting and male-female interaction has changed, I mean, now you can have an app on your phone where you swipe and find a partner and, you know, like or not like a person. And, you know, it's just made society a place of instant gratification. So you're just going to have to adjust to those changes in society, but don't adjust your morals. Don't adjust your values. Don't adjust how you respect people, how you respect the humanity in another person like you would like them to respect yourself. So to me, it comes down to respect.
And I thank you as well for those remarks. And with that, we're going to bring this show to a close. I want to thank Gabrielle, and I want to thank Leah for joining me today. This is one of the better shows that I've ever done. You know, all this, all that testosterone wasn't all in the room and stuff. So, you know, we actually got a chance. No, I'm just playing. You know, my usual partners in consciousness, they'll be back next week. And because I know both of them probably would have jumped on, but they saw that, you know, we had already started, and they saw you guys was already handling y'all business, so they thought, they listening. But and that brings to a close this episode of Real Talk with Jalal Tariq. And I want to thank all of my guests, my co-hosts, took time out of their schedules to join me today. I also want to thank all of those out there listening, those who called in, as well as those who are online. And as usual, I urge all of you who are listening to go to urbanintellectuals.com/members, and for the low, low price of $24 a year, you can become a card-carrying member of our organization. Or if you just want to donate to the cause, you can also go to urbanintellectuals.com/donate and give to your heart's content. I also encourage you to join us next week, every weekday at 1 p.m. Most of the time it's going to be live unless something comes up. If something comes up, then we'll put up a pre-recording, what have you. But we'll be here for all of that good talk and solutions to our problems. And with that, I want to bid everyone out there peace and love. And until we meet again next week, I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And we are off the air.
Cool. That was fun.
Good show, ladies. Good show. Good show.
All right.
Now.
Is Leah gone? I guess she's gone.